Hey guys, how you doing today? Here with my little pug, Milo. Yeah, he's a good boy. It's a bit too windy, a bit too ridiculous out there today to do a good video, so I'm just gonna walk around my apartment and do a video. So the CDC, according to CNBC, in a link that I'll include in the description below, the CDC has updated its guidelines for COVID and has added that COVID is now infectious to over 6 feet away, and that it is airborne and aerosols itself in tiny little water droplets that can infect people over 6 feet away. That's depressing news, eh? That's depressing, sad news. Like, we always knew since October, we've known that COVID has been airborne, but there's always been this sort of space limit, right? That's the whole social distancing idea. But now we're starting to see that COVID hangs around, man. It hangs around in spaces, and it can travel over 6 feet away. It can infect people. If an infected person goes into a space, coughs, coughs a couple of times, COVID can linger in that space for hours, right? And as we're learning more and more about the coronavirus, we're seeing that it's highly infectious. It's highly contagious, I should say. It sticks around for a long, long time, and if you get it, you're really rolling your dice, right? If you get it, you're really, really rolling your dice. And what was really annoying about this particular article, and every article I've read recently about coronavirus, is that everybody is talking about it like, here are the precautions you need to take, which is great, right? But it's all framed around the idea of, as you get back to work, as you go back out into the public and risk your lives for billionaires, here are the things that you can do to take care of yourself. You'll see it. Go take a look at the article. I have it linked below, and you'll see, right? This is the way they're talking about this. That as you go back to the office, right, as you go back to work, right, as we normalize the coronavirus and pretend as though, this is just a completely normal thing for people to do, for regular citizens to do, to go into virus-infected areas that are high risk, continue spreading this virus around, right? Don't worry, the vaccine will save us, but we're not going to sell the vaccine to everybody, of course, so huge sections of the populace aren't going to get vaccinated, which means that the coronavirus is definitely going to mutate and definitely make our vaccines worthless, right? Like, that is what's being said to us. And in the meantime, right, we're being called essential workers, when previously we were told that we were these replaceable, worthless, low-level minimum wage workers. Now we're being called essential workers. We're not receiving any increase in pay, and the people who did get an increase in pay had that pay stripped basically immediately, right? And we're told that we're heroes. Like, has there ever been a more clear go fuck yourself in the history of our nation, right? Has there ever been a time where it's been easier to say go fuck yourself to the wider population than this absurd nonsense, right? Like, they're even mistreating the nurses, right? The nurses and the doctors who are actually the heroes in this, who are actually going to walk out of this with massive PTSD, with massive mental health disorders, with massive collective difficulties, right? Those are the true heroes of this, and we're doing everything we can. The Ford administration is cutting their funding, for God's sakes. Like, the Ford administration is cutting health funding in the middle of all of this. And we're just supposed to stand around and accept it. If you're one of these people who dart out of these videos around this time, please be sure to like, please be sure to share, please be sure to subscribe. Be sure to comment. Not only does it make me feel good about myself, it actually really, really helps the channel. I'm very close to 500 subscribers now. 500 is a threshold. I get access to other things on YouTube once I hit 500 subscribers. Please go to thecanadiancommie.com. Be sure to bookmark that. If YouTube takes my stuff down, that's where I'll be posting my new projects. Also, thesocialistagenda.com is my podcast that we upload weekly. And I'm live streaming now. Check me out, 6 to 9. Every weekday, 6 to 9. I'm going to be streaming live streams, just talking to people, getting our chat on. Please join in. Nobody in our media is actually talking about what needs to be done, right? We need to pay people to stay home, right? They need to stay home, right? People need to stay home. They need to hunker down. And I'm not talking like this nonsense that we're doing where like, oh, let's have a bunch of workers go work in a place and do curbside pickup. Like, that should have never been an option. Like, that's what a concession that whole thing was. What a grift that whole thing was, right? You remember back at Christmas, right? Remember when the capitalists were running around doing everything they could to save Christmas, right? To save capitalist Christmas, because Christmas I have opinions on Christmas. Christmas as a holiday or as a cultural building exercise for us. Like we've lost the spirit of Christmas. But remember during Christmas, they refused to do lockdowns. They refused to do anything serious. It was all just like, send everybody to work and we'll do curbside pickup. That was the big concession. And the numbers spiked. It was the second wave, remember? Right? They're going to do that again, right? That same thing is going to happen again, where Christmas is going to come and they're going to go, oh man, Christmas, that's when we make all our money. Let's get people jammed into tiny little rooms and really infect them, right? Because, and I've said it over and over and over again on this channel, the chain of infection is really, really obvious, right? You're taking people from their homes, putting them on the TTC, an enclosed area where the virus can spread around because it spreads through the air over 6 feet away, right? Have you been on the TTC recently? Have you been on transit recently? Do you think you've been closer than 6 feet away from somebody? Well, guess what? Closer than 6 feet doesn't even matter anymore because it spreads farther than 6 feet now. And so you're getting into an enclosed tube, either a streetcar, a bus, or a subway, right? An enclosed tube where you're breathing the same air as everybody, and that guy that's in the corner going, yeah. And that's going to linger in the air for a couple of hours at least. And so then you go from that enclosed tube, right, into your enclosed space, which is the workplace you have, the factory you're working in, the site that you're on, the IT job that you're doing, any of these, anything. If you're in an enclosed building, and guess what? You're in an enclosed building with a bunch of people who just got off of these enclosed tubes with the guy standing in the corner going, and then guess what? When you're done your shift, you turn around, you get back on that enclosed tube, and you go home. What do you think is happening here, guys? It's not a mystery, right? And in the meantime, our media is telling us, well, while you're going through this absolutely absurd thing that nobody should be doing and that we shouldn't be participating in at all, but when you're doing it, because you got to make that money for the capitalists, make sure you wear a mask. Make sure you put a mask on. And like, I'm not an anti-masker, wear your mask, but guess what? It's not a fail-safe, right? It's not 100%. It's not going to completely eliminate transmission of this virus, especially as it's airborne from over 6 feet away, and we're all spending all our time in these enclosed spaces constantly mingling with other coworkers, constantly mingling with the public through our transit system, constantly doing this. And in the midst of all of this, and in the middle of all of this, Doug Ford is cutting healthcare funding, right? Like, we've lost our minds. Like, we've lost our minds as a people. Like, we We don't care about one another. That's obvious, right? It's blatantly obvious at this point that we do not give a shit about one another at all. That should your neighbor die, you'll probably think about that along the lines of like, oh, well, maybe I can get cheaper rent on my apartment, right? Like, this is where we are as a people. We genuinely do not care about one another any longer. We just want our Timmies, right? That's what Doug Ford wants. He just wants his Timmies. He just wants he wants to send his assistant somewhere to get cheap food or get a burger from McDonald's or whatever, right? Like, he wants people to be serving him, right? Because he sees himself as above us, clearly. And the rest of us can just go get fucked. Like, he doesn't care if we die, right? And like, this whole thing is going to get so much more ridiculous than this. We're still going to be dealing with this in a year's time. We're still going to be dealing with this nonsense. I can't wait to be talking to people being like, remember when we thought the vaccine was going to be a thing? Remember when we thought that vaccine was going to work out? Shame about Bill Gates, right? Shame about these guys, right? Who just let the coronavirus stew in like India, stew in like poor countries in Africa, stew in these places and mutate and change and become more grotesque and alter itself to make the vaccine completely worthless. And then here we are still playing this nickel and diming capitalist game where we're putting people's lives at risk, sending them into enclosed spaces with lots of other people who have been traveling in enclosed tubes with members of the public. There just comes a point where we have to admit that we are, like, empathetically and compassionately dead as a people, right? That the empathetic and compassionate thing to do, the correct thing to do from the outset was to actually lock the place down, right? To actually try to kill this thing, to try to actually clean it out of our society. But it's becoming really, really plain to me, and it should be plain to everybody, that we're like a backwater hick nation, right? Standing around saying, we're so great, we're the best nation that's ever been a nation. The white race is the superior race. The North America is the greatest civilization that's ever been erected. And the truth is that we're just like backwater hicks, right? That we really just built our nation off of slavery, and we also managed to get ahead of everyone else because World War II blew everyone else up, but it didn't blow us up. Right? And so we're able to stand around and be like, yeah, we're so far ahead because we didn't get nuked. Like, it's just, we're so stupid and we're so dumb, and we're going to continuously fall behind. Places like China are going to just jump ahead of us in leaps and bounds while we're still struggling with this virus and how to deal with it, right? China is going to just be racing ahead of us because they have dealt with it, because they know what they're doing, right? Anyway, this is the end of this video, guys. Please like, share, subscribe, thecanadiancommie.com, thesocialistagenda.com. Please join the live stream, 6 to 9. Pop in, say hi, ask a question if you've had a question burn in your heart. I answer questions on the channel. I do all the conversation, all the kind of stuff. Hey, just come if you want to vent. Just come if you want to spin a conspiracy theory. I don't care, right? Under these circumstances, guys, where this coronavirus is taking to the air and mutating and changing, and there are variants and all this kind of stuff, you are doing wonderfully. You are doing wonderfully. You're doing your best. You're making good decisions for yourself and for the people around you. You're trying your hardest, and I know that you're meaningful. You are a divine being standing on divine energy, right? These guys spend billions of dollars to convince you otherwise. We shouldn't let them. Good luck. We're going to need it.